Hi, I'm Jack Dostaler. You're about to hear a podcast about the book Codename Barry. We will be discussing Betty Lussier and how she relates to the book Codename Barry. When World War II began, Betty was just a college student at Maryland. She went to England to help fight off British invasion. She was armed with a private pilot's license, and she joined the Air Transport Auxiliary. After the Normandy invasion, women pilots were barred from delivering planes to the combat zones on the continent. She complained to Sir William S. Stevenson, who was in the RAF with her father in World War I and headed British intelligence in the United States. He steered her to the newly formed American Office of Strategic Services, which was recruiting field agents. She had a lot of experience in setting up a chain of double agents and transmissions. Through her experience, Betty helped bring an end to the war. She learned to fly in a civilian pilot training program at the University of Maryland. After the war, she set up income-generating projects for women in Africa and elsewhere. Today, she lives in Pacific Palisades, California. Betty was born in Alberta, Canada. At the height of the Depression, her father bought a Maryland farm at a bank foreclosure sale. They crossed the border to the States and settled down to the hard life of raising dairy cattle and the crops needed to feed them. The Lussier families were all girls. They had no guys in their family. But Betty and her sisters grew strong, hardy, and adventurous. They worked long hours daily. They were driving the milk churns out for collection before they reached their teens, and not long after, they were taking advantage of a friend of the family to learn to fly. The girls stayed close to home when they went to college, and that's when war broke out in Europe. The Lussier girls wanted to help Great Britain. They were struggling against the might of the Nazis. Betty's father was a World War I pilot. World War I was the first major conflict fought in the air. In 1940, at the start of the battle for Britain, the family had 871 single-engine fighters, and only 644 were serviceable. Many died. The Brits don't give up without a fight, though, because 17,000 planes were delivered to help from Canada and the U.S., but most of the requirement was made up locally. During the war, around 125,000 planes were manufactured. All these planes had to get from factories to squadron bases, with typically Britain literal thinking a couple of ex-RAF pilots, themselves no longer deemed fully fit for service, came up with a notion that not only was it inefficient to have trained and fit fighter bombers pilots basically stunning planes with the country when they could be out fighting and bombing, but at the same time there were large numbers of qualified pilots who, by reason of age or disability or gender, were not deemed fit for the front line. This is when the Air Transport Auxiliary was born. During the war, the Air Transport Auxiliary made an estimated 340,000 deliveries. 153 of them died in the attempt. Air crews were drawn from some 28 different nations, and minor issues such as missing a leg or a hand or an eye or being female were not seen as a bar to service. Betty was one of those pilots. Betty helped with engineering of how to get behind enemy lines. She signed up with the X-2, the fledgling U.S. counter-espionage agency, and as one of the privileged few privy of the ultra-files, she worked her way from St. Albans via Algeria, Sicily, and Italy, all the way to Paris. In the book Codename Verity by Elizabeth Wing, Maddie, the character, is just like Betty. She was also a pilot. She could fly anywhere you wanted. She had insanely good navigation, and she pretty much knew exactly where to go anywhere you needed her. Her only problem was that she wasn't very good while being shot at. Bullets just scared her, and she doesn't know what to do at that time. And obviously, like Betty, Maddie was a female. Females were usually slighted back then. Most of the time weren't even allowed to be on the front lines because most people didn't think that females were fit for the job. Betty proved many wrong with her bravery. Maddie did as well. In the book, Maddie's best friend Julie was captured by the Gestapo, which was the Nazi Germany's in France. Maddie was able to fly many people there to help Julie. Maddie was able to she saved Julie from her interrogation because Julie was running away and she was about to get taken by the Nazis and sent to a concentration camp where they would do experiments on her. Being Julie's best friend, she shot Julie after Julie yelled, "Kiss me, Hardy, kiss me quick." What it really meant was kill me, because she would much rather have just died without giving away any information than to have gotten taken and tortured to death. Maddie, though it was a very hard decision for her, shot her friend and saved her from the pain. In the 1950s, Betty Lussier introduced hybrid corn into Morocco and started schools, maternity services, and recreational facilities for farm labor. In the 1960s, she set up schools and family health clinics in slum areas of Madrid, Spain, with volunteer assistance from Spanish teachers and doctors. In the 1970s, she graduated from the University of Maryland and Columbia University with studies in community organization and development. Then in the 1980s, she returned to Morocco to take part in the first joint USA-Morocco Women's Development Project, with a focus on identifying and setting up income-generating activities for Moroccan women. In the 1990s, she evaluated and designed human development projects in New York State, working with the Haitian community and state health institutes. So Maddie and Betty are similar in the way that they both helped the British fight against invasions, and they both helped against the Nazi Germans. They were both pilots, and they were both females at the time when females were seen to be not as fit for war as males. They both for sure proved people wrong by helping their friends and family and country and flying planes that had very important people on them, getting them where they needed to go in order for them to defeat the Nazi Germans. So thanks to Maddie and Codename Verity, they managed to defeat the Nazi Germans. And thanks to Betty, they also managed to defeat the Nazi Germans. Thank you so much for listening to me talk about Codename Verity and Betty Lussier and how Betty and Maddie were similar.